I want to talk about a phrase that I use a lot in my videos and my blog. And that phrase goes, what works best at your table might not work for mine. And what works at my table might not work for yours. Do what works best for you and your players. Now, this is going to be a video aimed mostly at game masters. Someone recently made a comment from an alt account, and you could tell it was an alt account because it was Fred1734, and when I looked the channel up, it was like 3 years old and had all of about 4 subscribers or some such. Somebody had the gall to call that an act of cowardice while posting from an alt account on my YouTube comments, which, surprise, I curate my YouTube comments quite heavily. In fact, most of the time, my comments are either all held or very strictly moderated. So, leaving a nasty comment in my comment section is probably not going to get you very far. And then I made the mistake of deleting the comment before I blocked the guy. So if he comes back, I gotta go through that whole hassle again. Let's unpack why I obviously completely disagree about this being an act of cowardice and me being a coward. I believe in universal peace and justice and all that good stuff. Why do I say that little catchphrase that I mentioned a minute ago so often? I mean, let's talk about this. I acknowledge that not every table plays the same way, and that's one of the most beautiful things to me about tabletop role-playing games in general, is that not every table you sit down to is going to do things the exact same way every time, unless you've been playing with the same group in your basement for the last, 20, 30 years, which I have not had the pleasure of doing. I mean, in the wild, at game stores, conventions, wherever you meet up with groups, you're going to run into groups that want heavy, tactical, very detailed, miniatures-oriented combat. And you're also going to run into, especially more these days, the groups that want the really improv-heavy, storytelling, almost like Matt Mercer-esque, Critical Role-esque drama with the voices and the costumes and just all of the really intense role-playing moments. You're also going to have groups that really love that kind of low-tech, low-magic survival kind of game. And then you're going to have other groups, and again, I come back to more modern gaming, where you're going to have people that want to do really high-flying, off-the-wall, anime-style heroics, and have characters that scream a lot and swing wildly. I think it's great. I honestly, I do. I think it's great. Okay, I want everybody to find their preferred style, and I want everybody to have fun while they're doing it. That's really what I keep coming back to, is do what works best for you, do what works best for your group at home or wherever you're playing, and yeah, sometimes it takes a session or two to get kind of a feel for that and get to know people, and I acknowledge that. Nobody's going to be perfect on the first try with everything. I will even go so far as to say, and this even applies to the YouTube comment, that was made. I don't want to come off as being a completely totalitarian, do it my way or else kind of a YouTuber. That's just not my style. That's not my thing. Other people, that's their thing on their channel. Go for it. Have fun with that. Yay. Everybody has their own discernment and their own tastes as to what they'll watch on YouTube, too. I'm not saying my way is better. I'm not saying my way is worse. It's just what it is. Saying try it your way, do it your way isn't a cop-out, okay? It's not me trying to dodge the hard opinions. I have preferences. I share advice all the time. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that my way of playing goblins with sticks and dragons and elves with sticks and dungeons is the right way or the wrong way. And I'm not interested in being that know-it-all on YouTube that's yelling, "You're doing it all wrong!" Like some angry grognard did to me once back in the 80s. And I went to college, a little further forward, I went to college in the 90s. We had an entire guild of wargamers and role players, and those old guys constantly coming up to the new kids playing. I think it was second edition AD&D at the time, telling them they're doing it wrong, or they don't know what they're talking about, or any of that business. And I know a lot of times I was probably taken with a grain of salt giving out role-playing advice because I was into games that weren't D&D. Who would have thought, right? Like, games that aren't D&D are just not as valid for some reason. You know, that guy that wants to run Rifts, that guy that wants to run Cyberpunk, the guy that wants to run Werewolf, somehow it's not as valid, I guess. I don't necessarily understand that, but that's kind of the thing. And so when I was coming up through the hobby, I saw all this, and I kind of swore to myself that I'd never become that kind of a GM that was constantly looking over somebody's shoulder telling them they're doing it wrong. You know, you're doing it wrong. Again, I just want to say for the record, there is no wrong way to role play. Do what works best for you and your group. I'm going to kind of put a spin on one of the things I've been saying. There are lines that I won't cross. Of course, I draw the line at stuff like bigotry and hate and toxic behavior at my table, actually in my house. Like, period. Don't show up to my house and act like that or you're going to get... I'm not saying that every single table is valid no matter what they're doing or saying. If your fun involves shutting others down and making the game feel unsafe, then no. I'm not here for that. Not at my table. Okay, I apologize for that little break. My trusty microphone here decided to go kaputsk right in the middle of filming yesterday. Okay, the whole angry grognard thing. So going back to the bigotry bit for just a second, you know, if my style doesn't match yours, cool. Go, if it's that objectionable, go find another group. Easy mode. Just like if I show up at a group and I'm not comfortable with it, I don't stick around. It's pretty simple stuff. It's the old thing we used to say, if you don't like what's on TV, change the channel. Okay, if you don't like the gaming group, don't hang around. I'm not forcing you. Nobody's forcing you. But I'm here to tell you, no matter what your group's composition or how you play or what your preferred style is, if that's what makes you and your group happy, roll with it. That's what matters, okay? That we're all together, we're all at the table, we're all having fun, and there's no wrong way to role play elves with dragons and sticks, because there just isn't. I'm not going to be the guy to tell you that you're doing it wrong. You know? But why this attitude matters and why I'm so into this, it's because my phrase, do, you know, what works best at your table, etc., that welcomes people. Okay, that brings people into the hobby, and if we don't bring new people into the hobby will cease to exist, at least as we know it, and it will all go back to being screens. I don't think we're all ready for that yet. You know, I want to open the door instead of slamming it shut. We don't need to gatekeep anybody out of the hobby, except, like I said before, the one exception I have, which is people who are just straight up hateful. And even then, I'm not trying to keep them out of the hobby. I'm just saying, do your own thing in your own space and leave me the heck out of it. Otherwise, I'm not trying to gatekeep the hobby. I don't think anybody is, because we want the hobby to stick around, obviously. We want the role-playing experience amongst people, or even solo, to stick around for a very long time. TTRPGs are about imagination and connection and cooperation. However that looks at your house is fine. You know, I'm not going to tell you, again, I'm not going to say you're doing it wrong, because you're not. It's just, it might look different from one table to the next, to the next, to the next. It might look different from one genre to the next, to the next, to the next, to be honest. So, to my fellow GMs, if you've ever felt that you have to defend your house rules, your style, your way of doing things, I'm here to tell you, don't sweat it. You're doing just fine. Keep going. I think that is my one message to new game masters. I don't care if you just started playing yesterday, if you've been in the hobby for 50 years, keep going. Please keep going. Don't let anybody tell you you're doing it wrong. Do it your way. Get to know your players. Get to know kind of what they would like. Get it all together and just keep going. If you've ever been called wrong or soft or fake for how you run your game. I'm still here to say, you're doing just fine. Keep going. You know your players better than anybody. And you know your players better than anybody on the internet in my YouTube comments section is ever going to know them. So again, I just have to say, it's your table. They're your rules to do with as you need or as you wish. Keep experimenting. Again, keep going and keep telling stories. Do what works best for you and your players at your table. I can't stress that enough. Do what makes you happy. Do the thing. It's not cowardice. It's confidence with compassion. And I know I stress that a lot too. Try to put yourself in the other guy's shoes. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Don't be a jerk. If that makes me less extreme than people want, then good, because I don't want to be the extreme guy. I don't want to go around the internet picking fights with the old school Renaissance guys and the Bro SR, the 4D guys. I don't want to pick fights, guys. Come on, I'm not here for that. Let's be cool. Let's just all be cool. Sometimes we just have to draw that boundary of, our styles don't mesh. Hey, that's great. You do your thing at your table. Maybe just don't invite me if it's something that I'm going to find horribly objectionable to. I can find another game. It's not that hard. And that goes back to my whole argument, and this is a whole different video, but it goes back to my whole argument about there is no game master shortage. You will find a game master eventually that meshes with the way you like to play, or you will find a group eventually as a game master that can accommodate your style of GMing. It is not all or nothing. You are never completely alone in the world. There are all kinds of resources like Start Playing that regularly have listings for game masters as long as you don't mind playing over the internet. Otherwise, there's still solo play. That is still valid. It is still just as valid. Do what works best. Have fun. Enjoy your game. And I'll see you in the next video.